What's up YouTube, Dale here from Zephyr, and today I am bringing you some live commentary from a duel at local. So on the left we have Chimera branded, and on the right we have Infernoble Knights using the Adventure package and the Revolution Synchro package. So obviously Infernoble Knights get to go first, starting off with Rite of Armoricia, spawning out that token. So this is going to be a nice layer of protection, basically being able to protect the entire Infernoble line going forward. It can obviously help as well, helping to build the Infernoble board, especially utilizing Rev Synchron. And the whole idea behind that is you go into a Synchro level 8 of something along the lines of Power Tool Dragon, and then you get to search out for an equip spell, and it just gives you a bit more consistency. Now, obviously, this is without Isolde. Isolde is now banned, sad days, but it's also involving, not involving the Flame Swordsman version or the Super Heavy Samurai version. So this is something a little bit different. On top of the adventure package as well, you can also play the Fire Warrior monster rather than the Griffin Rider. And basically it's a level 4 Fire Warrior that does the exact same thing as Griffin Rider and Illegal Knight. Special summons itself if you have no cards or no monsters and or the token. And it's a Fire Warrior, so it helps the deck out quite nicely as well. It looks like he hard opened Draco back. So discarded that to equip it, which means he didn't get a search, which is a bit sad. Special summons that down, and then straight away, because you control a Fire Warrior monster, technically it allows you to special summon stuff like Oliver and Renard. It looks like he special summoned down Water Enchantress, so his opening must have been like a lot of Enchanted or a lot of Adventure package. Going to be linking that token and that off into IP Masquerena. And then what have we got here? Oh, okay. So we've got museums. We've got direct access to the Infernoble line. And this is where you can get stuff like Renard. You can go into, so obviously you go through Duradol to get to Renard, but you also then give access to Angelica and move your plays further forward from there. So it'll be nice to see from here. There is no protection on the board, so stuff like Nib can be hitting down, Imperms, Veilers, Ashes, you name it. And it doesn't look like his opponent has much of a response, which is pretty scary. The Infernoble Knight player is now down by 1200 because obviously the cost of Museum. But getting to a Renard is really important because special summoning it down, not only does it allow you to recycle a card from the graveyard, which I believe he's going to take the Duradol, which is either that or Draco back, synchro those two into an Angelica and build on from there. So Angelica straight away gets you a second Museum. The best thing about Museum is they're not hard once per turns, which is really nice. The question is if there's anything engraved to equip to Angelica in order to trigger its effect or revive from the revive from the spell and trap zone through Museum's first effect. However, Museum, if you do use that effect, does lock you into Warriors for the rest of the turn, so you do need to be a little bit careful. But I suppose that's probably why IP was made so early on. So let's see where this continues to go. It's very interesting. I like both of these decks. It's nice to see how Chimera branded has evolved over time. Now, this is specifically a Chimera branded version, and what we mean by that is it's predominantly focused around Chimera. It doesn't involve Albion, branded opening, stuff like that. It really is the Chimera engine with branded fusion in it. So the idea is off of branded fusion, you're going to be sending to get into a Rinbram, because that will send you your Gazelle, and then Gazelle can start searching you out your illusion engine, which I think is really cool. I like the illusion art type. I like the whole art type off of the back of the branded lore as well, the branded art type. So it's quite nice that you can play them separately or you can play them together, and the illusion cards keep getting more and more support. So I'm curious what we're waiting on here. So we've activated an equip spell, which looks like Duradol. Has that already been activated? I mean, unless I missed a way that they got to Renard. Is Duradol an activate once per turn? Duradol, I'm just going to Google it while they're playing. But they've obviously triggered off Angelica's effect, because it might be one of them ones where you can activate it multiple times, but you just can't use his effect multiple times. Let's have a look, see. Once it loads up. And they continue. So obviously we've gone to Angelica. Angelica's effect is tagged out to Foolish Burial, Turpin, and summon out Oliver. That's Artifact. Duradol. I don't want Artifact. Duradol. There we go. Infernoble Arms. While this card is equipped to a monster, you can add level 5, blah, 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 blah. If this card is in the sent to the graveyard, equip them, blah, blah, blah. For the rest of the turn, you can only use one effect per turn. So you can activate as many times as you want, basically. Anyway, so we've gone through Oliver, Turpin come back, Synchro into Emperor Charles, turn Emperor Charles into the Great Emperor Charles, which is the Link 1, which sets up the negate, and then activating the second museum. Now this is where it's cool, because obviously you can summon the Charles, the Synchro Charles, from the Spell and Trap Zone, which is what I liked about the Infernoble structure. So it's a really kind of cool deck. I like Noble Knights anyway, so being able to see that update and go from there is really kind of cool. And I do like the Flame Swordsman, so it was really nice to update this with the Flame Swordsman engine as well, for me personally. Obviously, this player prefers to go down a different route and go down with, or was trialing out the Rev Sync one. Keeping in mind that I believe this duel was recorded before the Flame Swordsman support came out as well. But it was interesting to see what the different versions you can now play. Like, people's ingenuity is really kind of cool. I know there are a couple of different builds that I've already seen. So I know I've seen players play the Super Heavy Samurai version. I believe that came from Pack. I think this version might have come from Pack as well. Like, he's clearly the innovator behind Infernobles as well. So I think the adventure package is what this player's added in, because I don't remember seeing any version like that. So if we move to the end phase, just trying to keep up with what's going on. If we've searched out another equip spell, what we've added. I mean, the board's not massively oppressive at the moment. There we go. So we're using the museum second effect to summon out Charles. Trying to think what else is in the graveyard that can equip, or if there's anything in the hand. Okay, so he's going to use a Roland graveyard effect to equip to Charles, which will give him the ability to make a second Great Emperor Charles, which isn't so bad. At least he'll get the end phase effects of being able to set up some more equips as well. I know that they do play the level 1 Roland, and the reason you would do that is that gets you Angelica's Ring. Okay, so this is the other one. I can't remember what this one is. Trying to think what this one. I'm gonna have to search the Infernoble arms. Infernoble arms. This is what's good about having a phone in front of you as a super rare. I'm trying to remember. It's not that one. There it is. It is Joyce. So Joyce, that's going to allow him to get into a second Great Charles, bring that one back from the graveyard. He's got Roland for his opponent's turn, which gives him a nice pop. I think the ability of Joyce was just to use it as an equip spell, which is really, really nice. Oh, yo, he's playing the other one that's treated as an Infernoble card. So this is the card that you can discard from your hand to equip an equip card directly from the deck. So it's another way of getting to Angelica's Ring, which basically means that an Infernoble Knight deck does not auto-lose to a Dark Ruler No More. Because the idea of Angelica's Ring is the first card that does resolve, you negate, whereas the first two instances you negate with Great Emperor Charles anyway, so Angelica's Ring doesn't kick in. So if they start off with Dark Ruler No More, Angelica's Ring negates it, and if they try and bait out interactions to then Dark Ruler No More, Angelica will deal with it last. Angelica's Ring will deal with it last. So we've moved to the end phase. Angelica the Synchro's coming back, which is nice because it means it's great free fodder for IP, and he's re-equipped in Duradol from the graveyard and then a warrior from the deck. So it'd be interesting if he goes for a non-target. Oh, okay, he's gone for the one that when it's sent from the field to the graveyard, he puts 3 back and draws 1. So I think he's doing that off of the back of Charles's effect, because when a monster becomes equipped, you can pop any card on the field, which is really, really nice. So popping that, putting 3 back, giving him a draw. I mean, if he draws into a hand trap, that's pretty busted, considering it's just like 1 card that they're going to have. So, I mean, the end board's still pretty good. You've got IP that is possibly going to go into something like SP. So that's going to be a banish on summon, and then it also has another banish. It will be 2 banishes. You've got 2 negates of spells or traps over the back of the Great Emperor Charles, and then you also have the Angelica's Ring, which will deal with a spell. So you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 forms of interruption at the moment, not to mention whatever they draw. So if they do draw into a Ash or an Imper, well, not an Imper, that'd be terrible, an Ash or a Veiler, then they're going to have another form of interaction to kind of slow the Chimera branded player down pretty massively, to be honest. I think Chimera branded player is just double checking everything. It's because this is the interesting thing about Angelica's Ring, because it is negates on resolution. If it doesn't get past the Charleses, it doesn't kick in, and I believe it's mandatory as well. So it's mandatory to negate the first one that does resolve, but if you never let the first one resolve because you hit it with the Great Charleses, Angelica's Ring never kicks in. So yeah, it's always very interesting, that one. Otherwise, if it was like mandatory the first spell that's activated, then your opponent baits it out very easily and then Dark Ruler's the board. But it's a shame it wasn't a Noble Knight or a Noble Arms card, because it's not searchable that way, which is a real annoyance. But anyway, so he's gone for the draw phase. Is it that good? I mean, it's a spell card. Oh, it's Nadir Servant, so it wasn't like a Nibiru or a hand trap that would have helped him prior. That would have been so much better. But it looks like there's 4 spell cards in that hand and 2 monsters. I'm really hoping one of them isn't an Ash, because if one of them was an Ash, then that would be crazy. There's got to be a way, like, I don't know if there's a way to identify or confirm what cards are attached to what cards. You know, like on maps or like old school detective boards where they put like a pin. I'm not saying put a pin in a card, but where you connect stuff together with a bit of string. That'd be pretty cool. Because obviously on dueling simulators, when you hover over the card, it will tell you what's equipped to it, which is really cool. What have we got? I'm trying to see what is in Branded Chimera's hand. Oh, that's a Kotal, so that's a good start. That's going to get you your starter. Oh, Kotal and an Albaz. I mean, Albaz isn't a bad normal summon if this does get stopped, because there's no... Oh, there's more interruptions, because he does have the pop when he brings the Roland back from the graveyard. So there's a pop which will deal with the Albaz, and then there's also IP that will deal with the Albaz as well. I think this is kind of the big clash of this deck, is if you do open up Albaz, you technically play with 2 normal summons that you can never really get both to the board, unless you're playing Time Tear and Morganite, which would be hilariously funny. It depends on what else the other spells are in that hand. I think one of them might have been a Talons. Is that a Call by the Grave? Is that a Call by the Grave? No, that's a Branded Fusion. So he's got 2 Branded Fusions. I mean, that's pretty funny, because it means you can activate both if the first one gets negated, if the activation gets negated off of Roland. Charles, sorry. Always mix Roland and Charles up. So what we're going to start with, and then he's also got Nadir. So he's got a lot to play through, which is really good. This is the one good thing about the Chimera Branded deck, is they have a lot of powerful 1-card plays. It's just a shame that technically, like, Branded Fusion is a 2-card play if you want to go down a Lubellium route. But it looks like he hasn't got any monster effects, monster negations on the board. So the monster effects are going to go off. So we're going to go into Baphomet. Baphomet's effect will trigger to get him the Guardian Chimera, Chimera Fusion and Gazelle, which is really nice. So the only thing that can really be done monster-wise on the Infernoble board is a pop and a spot removal with SP, IP into SP. The Chimera Fusion, the fact it's a quick play, is going to be really, really helpful, because it will allow them to technically dodge a form of interruption if they do attempt to target or whatnot, which is pretty cool. But then, of course, Roland can still negate it and deal with it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else that's quick effect in the graveyard. I think Infernobles are just looking through their extra deck to see what they would go into. Like, if you go into SP Little Knight, you get rid of the Chimera, but as soon as you summon out SP Little Knight, you're going to chain the Chimera Fusion. That then gets negated by Charles. So now you're down to 3 interruptions left, or 4 including the SP Little Knight pop. And I have an inkling the Infernoble Knight is trying to play around a Thrust, because that would also explain why they haven't activated a monster effect as of yet. But I still don't know. I think there's one more spell in Branded Chimera's hand that we don't know yet. Not that Thrust is a big issue, because, I mean, even if you activate a monster effect, you just Thrust it. So there's Branded Fusion. So this is the first big bait. If there was an Ash in the hand, just scoop it up and go, because then it will kill an additional card in Branded Chimera's hand. Okay, so he's going to Charles it. Charles it gets rid of the Duradol. So that's the first negate, and I think he's just asking if it negates activation. There's the Thrust. There is a Thrust in the hand there. Yo, can you imagine? Activate the second Branded Fusion, gets negated by the second Charles. Activate Thrust, or activates another card effect to yeah, you have to activate Thrust, wouldn't you? And then gets negated with Angelica. Or activate the Chimera Fusion. That'd be pretty... Like, this could be quite funny, because then you... Basically, what I'm trying to get to, rather than stumbling on my words, is Thrust get you the third Branded Fusion. How bad do you want it? Oh, Appaloosa. There you go. There's your monster negates. I was thinking SP all along, but Appaloosa's pretty interesting. I mean, it's not incredibly broken, because if you can get through the Chimera plays, you can chain block a lot of your stuff, which is really nice. I suppose the issue with Nadir 7 as well is it needs to be the last card effect you activate. So as it currently stands, I believe there is a pop left, 3 monster negates left on Appaloosa, and a spell and trap negate, and then a mandatory spell negate. So there's still 4 forms of interruption left on the Infernoble Knight board. Technically 6 if you count the other 2 effects on Appaloosa. So Appaloosa is currently on 24. I don't know what other monster effects they have in hand. I mean, they have conducted their normal summon because they went into the Knight, which is Illusion Knight. So what have we got left in hand? There's Chimera. He's got the Thrust. If you activate the Thrust, do you let the Thrust go and then negate whatever they search? I mean, if they search out Dark Ruler no more, which would be pretty funny, you'd be forced to Angelica's Ring It. Basically, I feel the outcome's exactly the same. Whether you negate the Thrust now and hope they don't have a second one, or if you let the Thrust resolve and then negate whatever they search, but then you'll still be in the same predicament that if you negate whatever they search, they go from there. So he's Charlesed the Thrust, which now means that there is a mandatory spell negate on board plus a pop. So trying to remember what else is left now then. So there's definitely a Chimera Fusion, there's definitely an Nadir Servant, so one of those is going to resolve, and there's no more monster effects. Was it a second Brand Fusion? I can't tell if it was a second Brand Fusion or not, but maybe not, maybe I was wrong. So he's going to go with the Chimera Fusion. Is Angelica mandatory? I keep saying it's mandatory, and I don't know why I thought it was mandatory. Let's have a look. Angelica's Ring. Equip only to a monster you control with an equipped card. You can only control each turn negate the effect of your opponent's first spell card or effect that resolves. Yeah, so it's mandatory. It's not a you can. So he has to negate the Chimera Fusion. There's no thinking about this. It's mandatory to negate that. Which then means whatever's left in Branded Chimera's hand is going to guarantee to resolve unless it leads to a monster effect and it just gets negated by Appaloosa. But like I said, if you do it right and you go into a Rinbroom, I mean, I personally, what you'd be doing off the back of this is your Chimera Fusion would go into Guardian Chimera. Doesn't it Dear Servant? So Angelica's Ring's going to negate that. It's mandatory, so I think it happens. Guardian Chimera. What am I looking for? Guardian Chimera? Wait, no, Nadir Servant. That's what I wanted to check. Nadir Servant. I wanted to know if Nadir Servant was negated. Send one monster from your extra deck to the graveyard, then add one Dogmatica monster or Fallen of Albus from your deck to the graveyard to your hand that has attack less than or equal to the sent monster in the graveyard. Also, for the rest of the turn, after this card resolves, you cannot special summon monsters for the extra deck. Let me just double check. Angelica's Ring again. Does it negate activation or effect? Negate the effect. Oh, yo, that would be so funny. Nadir Servant, Angelica mandatory negate, but it negates the effect, not the resolution. So Nadir would still resolve, I believe. So it still would have resolved, meaning that he would still be extra deck locked, which is pretty funny. So I don't think that, I think the only benefit, I mean, he can add the Guardian Chimera back from the graveyard, right? Or does he have to control? I think you need to control the Chimera Mythical Beast. Like, obviously, I can't remember the exact wordings on some of these cards off the top of my head, but so attempts to activate Maximus, activate Appaloosa. I suppose this is the one issue about not having that Birth Met in attack now, is that you can't really kill over it. I mean, he's done incredibly well. The only thing he hasn't dealt with yet is the pop from the graveyard, which is Roland, if it's still there. What? No, Maximus is a once per turn, right? What did Appaloosa negate? Oh, sorry, Appaloosa negated the Garura that was sent. And he's trying to use Maximus to banish the Garura to summon itself down. I mean, that's pretty smart because the draw could have been anything. It could have been another Brand Fusion. So there's one more spell left in the hand. I'm not sure what that is. There's no Guardian Chimera Fusion coming back from the graveyard. So we're moving to the end phase, which basically Great Emperor Charles is treated as Charles. So he's going to get a equipped spell, which is a Duradol for a following setup. Be very interested to know what that remaining spell was in his hand. That might have been something that could have turned the tide, which would have been impressive. I suppose this is also the other issue with Infernoble Knights, is even if you chip away at their board, if you don't get rid of all of it, it's just going to repopulate. So like Angelica's repopulated, the Charles Negator's repopulated, and now he's going for a Gearfried, which is obviously going to be able to summon itself out or get out. And then you've got the Museum that can give him a search, the Duradol that can get a search, and then it's just pretty painful from that point on, really. So, I mean, equipping the Gearfried from the deck's really cool. Ogier for the Foolish Burial. That's if music is Museum Infernoble Knight, or is it Fire? Infernoble Museum. Noble Art Museum. Pay 12, add. Previous effect was applied this turn. You target a Noble Knight monster. It has to be Noble Knight. Why couldn't it be Gearfried the Infernoble Knight? That would have been big brain. So it looks like Turpin's come back from the graveyard. Don't know if Turpin needed to be banished last turn. I might have missed that, but I mean, is there enough for game on board? You got Berthmet in defense. I mean, you probably wanted to Foolish the Ogier. I think that's where the misplay happened. Rather than equipping the Gearfried, you probably should have equipped something else, so that when you get the Ogier, well, to be fair, maybe he didn't know he had the Ogier in hand. But you would have Duradoled into Renard, and then Renard would pretty much add it back from the graveyard. You summon it down, and you're just pushing your board even further. Still got access to an SP as well. So we're re-equipping the Magius. The Magius then has the ability to... oh, smart! Renard pop the Gearfried, add the Gearfried back. Yo, very clever. I like that. This is game, right? Surely. So we've got 3,000 on the Link one. We've got 15 on Ogier. Synchro off Ogier or Turpin into a level 5, which would be Angelica, second Angelica, if it's played. Obviously, the one thing you don't want to do is SP Little Knight now before the battle phase, because then you can't attack, which would be pretty damaging. I think we've got on board. So it's definitely 6k. Gearfried. Gearfried. Oh yeah, there you go. So Gearfried's going to attack, steal it. And then Charles in for 3k. Turpin in for something, which is because it's buffed off the field spell as well. So what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 3. That's definitely game, right? Because the buff off of the field spell will give all of his monsters what he needs to, and the Appaloosa on 800 would be enough to finish the game off. So yeah, I definitely think that's game. Yup. I mean, it's impressive the Brandy Chimera was able to poke away as much of the board as possible. That board was pretty badass as the way it ended. This is the issue with Infernobles. If it goes off, happy days. Anyway, Infernoble Knights start off with... not Infernoble Knights, sorry. Brandy Chimera start off with Kotal, so they got their starters. Doesn't look like there's a Droll. Yeah, no Droll, no Ash, so that's a great start. Going to Mirror Knight. Mirror Knight's going to tag out. That's going to get you the Berthmet. Berthmet will then get you your Chimera Fusion and, of course, Gazelle. Oh, what's that? Oh, yo, he ashed the Berthmet. Big brain, please. Big brain. Let them have the hope that they're going to be able to do something, and you go, forehead says no. That's pretty cool. Oh, okay, there's Frost. Oh, what do you go for, though? What do you go for? Anything you get is only going to be able to be used next turn. It's Branded Fusion. It's always risky when you do that, because obviously your opponent has quite a few chances to kind of pop it and get rid of it, which is a shame. Okay, so we set that card. What's that? Yo, is that an anti-spell? That's the second anti-spell. Yo, has he opened up all 3 anti-spell? That's funny. The worst thing about this matchup with anti-spell is the fact that the adventure engine can actually play around anti-spell, because it places the adventure token. So he's activated, not the adventure token, it places the Fateful Adventure. So there's ways to get around it. It will take a bit of time to bounce it, but then obviously his opponent's got 3 anti-spells, which is pretty funny. So anti-spell is going to really slow down the Infernoble Knight plays, but the monsters can still do a decent chunk of damage to poke away at it. So there's an Ogier. That's a great one to start with. We know one of the sets is Branded Fusion, which obviously needed to be set anyway, especially with Anti-Spell. But it was set before Anti-Spell, so it's not really affected. Went for the... So sent the Turpin. What are we doing? So set the Turpin. Hang on, wait, what? What you talking about, Willis? You just activate... Yeah, I was going to say, did you activate Yugioh? You're under Anti-Spell, fool. Oh, you need an equip to bring back Turpin, right? Oh, so if there's not an equipped monster on the board, you can't Turpin. But then again, if you've opened up Oliver or Renard, you can just summon down Renard. You do need to get rid of Ogier, and then you can equip Ogier to that monster. And then you're good to pretty much go. Angelica can get you the field spell, which you'd need to set, and then build up from there. Where do we go from here? Where do we go now? Where do we go? Interesting. So like, you kind of want to be like, do, 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 do. Like the thinking clock as everything kind of ticks by. Either that or it's the symbol in the brain going tsh, 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 tsh. Okay, so we set one, a surprise Gyarados. Or it could be an imperm. Like I would probably mess around with the columns, but then if I was to imperm anything, I'd be putting it in the Branded Fusion column because that would be funny. Activate Branded Fusion, my only way to play under my own anti-spell, and it gets impermed. Can you kill the Berthamet? I think the Berthamet's got like a fat stack back, isn't it? It's like 1800 defense, so fairly strong and decent on that one. Do 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 do. Oh, yo, Gifford in the hand. Gifford send the Gyarados, summon itself down. That's it. Now you got the beater on the board. It's free reign. Free reign. That's cool. Now it's just the battle of the boss monsters. I suppose it all comes down to how does that Branded Fusion resolve? And the issue is Branded Fusion, I mean, now it's going to steal the Berthamet, which is quite funny. But the Branded Fusion isn't going to get far, because like unless he plays a route to Mirror Jade, which you would have to go Albion to send a light, and then go Mirror Jade. That'd be your best way of doing it, but now there's an equipped on the board. Gearfried has the negate for that Branded Fusion. So, is it a Branded Fusion negate, or is it a monster negate? There's too many different cards that do too many different things. Can we keep it simple, please? It's a joke. I don't mind it being a little bit complicated. I can't remember stuff off the top of my head, like I said. Is it a monster effect? Yeah, monster effect is activated. Alright, cool. So you can still go into Mirror Jade, but it's not strong enough to kill the Gearfried. Is it negate and destroy? You can send a face up quick card and negate the activation if you do destroy it. I mean, that wouldn't be so bad because you'd summon out Mirror Jade, use Mirror Jade's effects. You send an Albion, so you've got a follow up for the end phase. And then if they do Gearfried and negate it, the Gearfried would then self-implode the board. Oh, this is interesting. So he's overlaying Turpin and Ogier to go into the Battling Boxer, and the Battling Boxer is going to allow him to search out any Fire Warrior, which is really cool. So do you go for a starter for the next turn, or do you go for an extender and just push your luck here? Oh, I suppose another way you get rid of that anti-spell is you go into SP Little Knight, right? You've already done your battle phase, so you would just get the level 1, so Renard, sorry. Summon the Renard, loop back a card from your graveyard so you've got resource, and then go into SP. SP then banishes the anti-spell. Now obviously he doesn't know his opponent has multiple anti-spells, but the idea is you would banish the anti-spell, and then your opponent now needs to deal with, he's got 3 sets, he now needs to deal with a monster negate off of the back of the Gearfried, and then a banish off of the back of the SP. So that does give you a lot to worry about. I know it's only 2, but at this exact moment in time, you know one of the back rows is Branded Fusion, and then you also know, or do you leave them under the anti-spell? And do you banish the Branded Fusion? I mean, as this currently sits, he's had 2 set cards. I mean, they could be cards that needed to be set under anti-spell. I suppose it's very difficult because we know that there are 2 more anti-spells. But I mean, if you go into SP Little Knight now, Oh no, because he activated the Yugioh effect. So he's going to activate Yugioh effect in graveyard, but he activated the Yugioh as its normal summon effect. So he couldn't use the right this turn. So it's interesting that he left that up. I might have got a bit greedy and tried to push it into an SP. So he's going to flip the branded fusion. Ash. That would be pretty devastating. So that's going to resolve. So he's going for Albaz, and now time to see if Mirror Jade is even an option in this build. I mean, you've got Nibiru. Send Nibiru, that's your light monster. Gets you Albion. Albion then attempts to use his effect, but the issue is because you can't chain block it. Okay, it goes for the Gazelle. Then it's just going to get hit with that. It's going to get hit with that Gearfried, which is quite painful. So we're going into the Rindbrum. I mean, Rimbrum's effect's not so bad because you get to bring back the Albaz and then you can threaten a contact fuse during your opponent's turn. That can get you into Mirror Jade, which is really nice. But then, do you want to keep the Dempsey on the board so you're guaranteed to leave your opponent with an extra deck monster? Ooh, so sending the Ogier to negate the Gazelle in the graveyard, which isn't so bad because that will negate resource. Chain Rinbrum? Or is it again, is Rinbrum from specifically from the extra deck? Quick Google will tell me the truth. I say a quick Google, depends how long it takes. When Fusion Synchro X was your link. God damn it! It's not even special summon monster. That would have helped. I mean, I suppose you killed Dempsey, right? Oh, we've already negated a monster effect, right? Yo, biggest brain plays ever, right? Rinbrum into Gearfried, take the damage, and then use... Let me just double check. Oh, nice. During your opponent's turn once in the graveyard. Ah, no, that would have been pointless. So attack the Dempsey. Right's going to be activated. It doesn't matter that it's under anti-spell because he set it the previous turn, and he's going to be able to get the adventure engine or the adventure because it places it doesn't activate it, which is a really cool little loophole, which spawns a token. And you'd still then get the ability to summon, search you out your equip spell, and then normal. Oh, he opened up the Griffin. Hard open of the Griffin. Not that it's going to be doing much with that Rimbo at the moment, but straight away you go Gazelle, not Gazelle, sorry, Gearfried, attack it, steal it. I'm surprised he hasn't. Oh, has he already opened up the equip spell? Yo, did he draw the equip spell for turn? That's savage if he did. This is basically just a venture beatdown. We know he's got a Roland in hand. Surely he plays not Beatrice. Surely he plays Baron, right? So summon down the Roland, add back Ogi, you've now got your starter. Because you not synchro into a 10 and you'd upgrade your Gearfried into a Baron. Baron could then... Oh no, because then Rinbrum can negate it, can't it really? Maybe you just... So he's normal summon the Ogier. Can't use the Ogier's effect. Stop it! What are you doing? You cannot do that! You activated Right of Armoricia this turn! Stop it! There we go, cool. They heard me through the video. Is this enough? This must be enough, right? Gearfried, attack, steal. Obviously no damage. And then 2,000 off of Griffin, 2,000 off of token. So that's 4,000. And then another 2,000 off of Ogier and Roland. So there's 6k damage on board, right? Do you upgrade into a Baron, or do you just keep the... I suppose you want to keep the Rinbrum though, don't you? Because as soon as you let that Rinbrum go, it then gives them that Albaz summon, or that Albaz play. I know you've obviously got the Griffin Rider to negate, but... Okay, it looks like it's going to SP Little Knight, which is fine, because at the end of the day, SP Little Knight's now just an additional interruption. So as it currently stands, there is Gearfried negate on board, Griffin Rider, and SP, and he's drawn one card for hand. Yo, Nib, Baphomet, 2 anti-spells, broken. Okay, not ideal, but that is unfortunately the end of the duel. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share. Till next time, as absolutely always, stay safe, and of course, happy dueling.